Early Christians respected this text so deeply, they gave it a nickname usually reserved for Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They called it the Fifth Gospel, written by a man who lived 7 centuries before Bethlehem. Yet most readers walk away confused. Isaiah pulls the reader in 2 different directions, shifting between jagged judgment and sudden tenderness. The first 39 chapters focus on fire and fury. The final 27 shift into comfort and restoration. It mirrors the exact structure of the Bible itself, 39 books of the Old Testament, followed by 27 of the New. Understanding why these 2 tones belong together requires looking at the political crisis that forced Isaiah into the temple in 740 BC. The world Isaiah occupied was falling apart. King Uzziah, who had ruled for 50 years, had just died, leaving a power vacuum right as the Assyrian Empire began its violent expansion toward Jerusalem. Uzziah's end was a warning. He had tried to seize a holy role in the temple without an invitation, and spent his final years as a quarantined leper, cut off and unclean. As the earthly throne went empty, Isaiah entered the temple and saw a different ruler, one whose train filled the entire building. He sees the seraphim, the burning ones, crying out the word kadosh. While we think of holiness as moral perfection, the Hebrew root points to something utterly separate and incomparable. Faced with this absolute holiness, Isaiah reacts with terror. He expects God's presence to act as a deadly wall that will annihilate his own uncleanness. Instead of distance, a seraph brings a live coal from the altar of sacrifice and presses it directly against Isaiah's lips. The heat of the altar heals him. The prophet is purged and restored by the very fire he thought would destroy him. This holiness functions as a furnace. It draws the sinner in by burning away the barriers that create the distance. This single interaction sets the tone for the next 66 chapters. The fire that judges the nation's rebellion is the same fire that prepares them for comfort. Isaiah applies this logic to the book's architecture, weaving cycles of judgment and hope together like a spiral staircase. The early chapters promise a coming king. Isaiah calls him Mighty God, a child who created his own family. The blueprint shifts in chapter 42. The conquering monarch is replaced by a gentle figure called the servant, who refuses to break a bruised reed. Chapter 53 reveals the cost of this servant's mission. Isaiah calls him a man of sorrows, makov, someone physically crushed to absorb other sins. These figures, the king, the humble servant, and eventually the anointed conqueror, build an escalating mystery that promises a total restoration of the world. 7 centuries later, a young rabbi in a Nazareth synagogue unrolled the scroll of Isaiah to chapter 61. He read the description of the anointed conqueror, sat down, and told the room that this ancient scripture was being fulfilled in their hearing. He was claiming to be the convergence of every figure Isaiah described: the mighty king, the crushed servant, and the anointed one. Decades of prophetic detail and historical chaos suddenly find their logical center in this one claim. Isaiah's vision reaches beyond the cross into a new creation, where the original garden is finally restored. Isaiah notes a specific detail of this future: the relational rhythm of the Sabbath continues. It is a sign of creative authority that outlasts every exile. Isaiah describes reaching this future through kavah, a word for waiting that implies weaving fibers into a rope. It is a deliberate process of binding one's life to God's purposes. The invitation is to step toward the same holiness Isaiah saw in the temple. This fire reveals the wound only to heal it, offering an open door to a world made new.